I think it was pretty clear what was going on. And since then, it's taken on a life of its own. As the song says, what a difference a day makes. And right now, every day is like, well, let's get started. I've been looking at the internet, and some of what I've been seeing reported is expected. You got the usual conspiracy theories. I'll admit I had a few myself to begin with, which I quickly pushed to the side as more information came to light. I would say the ones I'm going to focus on at the moment is this debate going on about the support Trump is gathering in, from the left's perspective. You know, they are trying to talk down some of the facts of the matter, that he's actually been drawing in votes from the black community. And this isn't a new thing, but since what happened on the weekend, it's starting to snowball. And the way some of the channels and commentators have been reacting to it, I don't think it's very healthy. So we're going to look at some of these stories, and as usual, I'll let you judge for yourself.
Pastor, last year I recall reading an op-ed that you wrote where you basically touted the infrastructure plan from the Biden-Harris administration in the
Conservative Perspectives channel, because he always brings some very interesting stories to light. And, well, here we go.
Context of wanting to strengthen Detroit's super information highway, essentially, to provide better access to the digital divide and to
Just to give you a bit of background, you'll remember on a few occasions Biden has shown up in the black churches because the black vote is highly sought after by both sides. And it's always been the case that with the narrative we've all been told about Trump, the Democrats generally hold the generally have the black vote in their pocket, or it's assumed that's the case. And what's been happening recently has, I think, given some of them cause to pull out their hair, if they have more hair than I myself have, as a way of putting it. And I don't think some of them have even been attempting to try to be honest in the way they've described the reception Trump has been receiving when he visits these black churches. I'm going to give you an example of one, courtesy of the black conservative perspective, and the response Biden gets when he goes to a black church. The first way of sort of drawing the life out of the stories to say, okay, this thing is staged or this or that, as opposed to just seeing it for what it is. People are starting to consider that they do have another option when it comes to their valuable vote when this election day finally arrives. So let's have a look.
And that, should we interpret your allowance of Donald Trump and your sort of, I want to call it adulation, but support of him at least coming to your church as switching sides in terms of your political allegiance?
Well, I don't have a political allegiance.
To begin with, what's wrong with any of the candidates doing the rounds and showing up here and showing up there? That's what you would expect them to do. And if they want the vote, the least they can do is show up, show that they have some interest in doing something, can bring in some light, if nothing else, to these communities that could, in some cases, so badly benefit from having some attention brought to them and some help and, bottom line, financial investment into these communities that can often be neglected. The vote ain't going to be as cheap as it has been in the past in the black community. I think both sides are going to have to work for it.
Jesus, I don't worship a donkey. I don't worship an elephant. I worship the Lamb of God that was slain for the sins of the world, and anybody that can come to his house, be prayed over, they are more than welcome. Obviously, I'm excited about what our current president did as it pertains to the digital divide, because he's helping our community.
look, if you're deciding on who to vote for, and one candidate doesn't even bother to show up in your community, another candidate extends the olive branch or the arm of support that they're gonna show some interest and come and visit your community, give you a minute of their time, hear your issues, and lay the case to what they can do for you if you're gonna gift them with your vote. That's a welcome thing. I don't see, the red lines being crossed there, whether you previously voted for one side or the other. Let both sides come and lay their arguments on the table and say, this is what we can do, this is what we, what do you need, this is what we think we can do. And just showing up to start with. Listen, I'm gonna let you.
I was so excited that President Trump actually physically came to 48227, a place where women are human trafficked right now as we speak, a place where our kids can't read, write, nor do math, a place that people are hurting. I was so excited to see the president there.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the mainstream liberal media and their continued outrage over a black church in Detroit hosting former President Trump to discuss the issues. Okay, you would think that this would be non-controversial considering how Biden has went to a black church to discuss issues, right? In the mainstream liberal media, they didn't find anything wrong with it. Also, this so-called black church that Biden was at had mostly white people in the crowd. But when it comes to this black church in Detroit that hosted an event for Trump and you had some white people in the crowd, all of a sudden these people want to question the authenticity of that church and to try to smear the pastor and, again, the church as a whole for hosting former President Trump. People like Joy Reid.
Listen, both sides need the vote from all the fringe communities, including the black community, and this election might be decided on the margins, although it's not looking that way now due to recent events. But all the same, the graph still has to be put in from both sides, and the churches are a hub in the black community, so obviously that's where Biden's going to show up, that's where Trump's going to show up. Let them plead their case.
Thank you.
The Detroit Free Press even ran a photo series online with the headline, "Trump Visits Detroit Church to Woo Black Voters." What they somehow forgot to show was how overwhelmingly white that crowd was, and also how many empty seats there were in that sanctuary. In fact, if you looked at the carefully selected images in their online story, you would probably guess the crowd inside that sanctuary was overwhelmingly black and pro-Trump, literally cheering for him and chanting his name. And you would be...
Both sides carefully select what edits and what, perspectives they show when they want to show that they're gaining support. What's unusual about that? If one side can do it, it's good enough for the other. As they say, what's good enough for me is good enough for thee. Though we know that's not the case in this particular political battle.
Forgiven for believing that this reinforces what seems to be the new hot narrative, that it is black people, specifically black men, who are driving Trump back into the White House with their overwhelming and historically growing support.
Some truth.
When the actual reality that you can see with your own eyes and know if you peel back the layers just a little bit, is that Trump spoke to an overwhelmingly white crowd inside a large Detroit church that, yes, does indeed have a black pastor. But
you have a black community predominantly. They need support. They need some spotlight. They have issues. They've been for a long time neglected. Now, to start with, if you're getting people from different cultures together, even if it is under the roof of a church, is that not a positive thing? Where's the... Don't get it.
Which merely served as a venue. And that the people who participated in the roundtable, like those in the audience at that church, were already Trump supporters, not some new historic black supporters of Trump. The church where Trump held this town hall is called 180 Church. The pastor, Lorenzo Sewell, is a Detroit native who grew up in an abusive home, with his father going to prison when he was a teenager. His experience with the criminal justice system did not happen when he was already rich and famous. He became a drug dealer and gang member as a troubled kid, the way it tragically happens for so many Americans in communities with high rates of poverty. But he had a conversion experience his senior year in high school in 1999, according to his church bio, and later became a pastor. Here he is, claiming Biden and Obama never visited the hood.
President Trump, I'm so humbled that you would be here. President Obama never came to the hood, so to speak, right? President Joe Biden, he went to the big NAACP dinner, but he never came to the hood. So thank you.
I agree.
This is the part where I point out that President Obama came to Michigan 15 times as president, including Detroit. Pastor Sewell also claimed it's hard to find a
Joy Reid, what's the problem with that?
black barber in Detroit for his Blasian kids, which honestly was weird.
All right, guys. So you seen that, you heard that. Okay. The mainstream liberal media has been criticizing the Church of Detroit that hosted Trump for an event to talk about politics and what Trump can do for the community of Detroit. Apparently, this is a controversial thing. This is a bad thing for a black church to host a Republican and to actually.
Black church hosting the former president of the United States leading up to an election within a campaign. What's unusual about that?
Talk with a Republican. And the 180 Church of Detroit has gotten a whole lot of backlash from the media for hosting Trump. So I decided that I would bring the pastor, Lorenzo Sewell, to talk about what actually happened at the church that day and how this all kind of came about, because he's receiving a lot of media criticism for essentially allowing Trump to speak to the black community. So without further ado, I want to introduce
look, anyone who can put in that kind of effort and represent their community and do for others like they're doing for themselves, I take my hat off to them if I was in fact wearing one.
Pastor Lorenzo Sewell, who is going to tell us kind of how they got Trump to come to this church in the first place.
See, Will, and this is
I'm so grateful, man. So Hippopotamus, happy to be here with you, Greg. I mean, what you're doing, your audience, I am so blessed that a man that looks like you is opening the minds of black people, specifically those who have had the stronghold of the Democratic Party on their minds for so long. Can you imagine 2 weeks ago, a kid born and raised on the east side of Detroit, mentored by murderers, student of the street, get a call from the Trump campaign that they want to come to the hood, right? I mean, you got the hood, and then you got the hood, right? You got like women walking around selling themselves. You got like people addicted, cross-addicted for generations, right? I mean, we give out $14.1 million of resources for the last 4 years in partnership with United Way, because we are in a context where kids can't read, write, do math. I mean, we haven't had a new home built in over 20 years in our tragic. So for Donald Trump to call me, I thought it was a joke, right? I thought Ashton Kutcher was walking out like you're being punked type of thing. And when they called, and that wasn't the part that resonated that they called, right? I understand it's a political season. The part that resonated is the campaign made it very clear that they wanted people from their community there. So the day that it got approved, which was that Monday, I taught the church about praying for our leaders on that Sunday, which I thank God for 180 Church. We are a praying church. After it got approved, Greg, the first thing I did was I went to city council. First thing I did, because I am the head of my clergy caucus. So I went to city council, told them that they would be coming, told them that they were invited, and we went to the methadone clinic, Greg, and we began to knock on doors and begin to tell people that they would come. And the type of people we saw in the audience, the type of people that are in 48227, that have been living there, some of them for...
So why would this guy turn down the opportunity for former president of the United States, potentially the next one, to come to his community and have ordinary people interact and get to, even as an experience, to give them some kind of, you too are relevant in this whole political, whatever they call it. Don't see nothing.
40 years. They were so excited that the president came and had a conversation with them.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that that story is important because, again, the media here is trying to twist kind of what happened to try to say, well, it was staged. Okay, they try to say what happened when Trump held the Bronx rally. They try to say, well, that was staged, right? So-called people of color, there's no way they could actually show up for Trump, a Republican. And it's like, well, if you actually look at the video, you saw there was a lot of people there. It was diverse, right? And
one side, show up at a church, it's organic. The other side, exactly the same thing. Show up as at a church, it's staged. Funny kind of logic.
Usually, these individuals love diversity, except they don't really like diversity in the black church when it comes to white people and also people from the community as well, too, coming together to basically try to hear the president of the United States, the former president of the United States, who's running for re-election. Now, again, the criticism is that there were white people in the church. Were those people from the community, or were they people who just kind of heard about it? They came from out of town. Like, what is your take? What is your response to people criticizing the church because it was too white?
This is so interesting, right? You alluded to it. When it's diversity, inclusion, and equity, and when the people of God are gathering together in a church, even if you hate Trump for him to be in the church, the only person that wouldn't want him in the church is the devil. The only person that wouldn't want black and white gathering together is the devil. The white people that were there were volunteers. Then the press. So for all the pastors out there that have had a president in your church, you know what it takes, right? For all the people that have had a president gather together in your church, let me explain to you how it happens. The first group is the Secret Service. And there are a very small niche group that have already been clear, people like me, my wife, and others that are able to be there. Then the media comes in. So what the media did was, after the Secret Service, after the volunteers, the media came in, Greg, what did they do? They started taking pictures, right? It created a narrative that says what? There were only white people.
Yep.
Well, what about the rappers from Detroit that were there? What about people, black people that were physically there? Why didn't the media just walk up to them?
Now, look at how they consider some of these people who showed up. The rappers, they're not famous enough, not Hollywood enough. Oh, nobody's ever heard of them. What is that got to do with the price of bread? So if they were big name people with a pull behind them and influence, did they not begin from somewhere? Are these candidates not supposed to be representing the whole community and the nation? That includes people who are just, starting off with what they're doing. And probably those are the precise people who Trump, Biden, whoever they are, should be meeting the people who need the most push, the most help. So I just see that as pluses, 10s.
Ask them the same question that they're trying to portray. Why didn't they just walk up to them and say, what? Aren't you disappointed with there not being enough black people? They couldn't do that because there were a significant group. I would say about 60 to 70% of those that gathered there were not only from Detroit, but they were black.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that, specifically certain media figures like Joy Reid, which is funny to me because like your parents are immigrants, and you try to pretend like you have this connection to Jim Crow and to slavery and to the black church. It's like, you really don't have that connection. Okay. You're a black lady wearing a blonde wig. But you're trying to again question, which I think is cultural appropriation, by the way, but you're trying to question the authenticity, the blackness of a church because there was a diversity of people there. Okay. And, they try to discount the rappers. It's, they're no-name rappers. They did the same thing when it comes to the Bronx rally in New York City. There was a lot of people there, like actual rappers and stuff like that, people from that community. And it was like, they're no name. Nobody knows who they are. Right. Apparently, it only matters if you're like Democrats, you can get Hollywood celebrities to show up to your fundraisers.
To see. Let me see if I can cue it up for you. Hey, here we go. Bear with me. Okay. Now check this out.
This pastor proves everything about Donald Trump. Check this out.
Bruce, we were together, and and I said, let me test this racism. He touched me with strong, I'm Donald J. Trump. He wasn't timid. Then I stood by his daughter, Ivanka, and it was time to pray. And I say, let me test it again. We were holding hands. She reached out for my hand and she said, let's pray. She was pregnant, I'll never forget it. And she held my hand. I say, a racist man's child would never. So I got several reasons why I'm going to support it. And I'm ready to take whatever heat because it can't be hot enough because the furnace is in my favor.
This pastor proves everything.
Well said. You see, that's what they're dealing with over there. Or, well, America, they say they're the global leaders. So, what goes on over there will soon find its way to the rest of the globe. Here's another one worth taking a look at. And essentially, I just want to
Today's topic is, does size matter according to women? The short answer is yes. At the end of 2023,
are looking at this stuff.
Lefties losing it. It's what you've been waiting for. Here is another edition of Trump derangement syndrome. Talk about warped and weird, starting with our friends over at The View for their odd take on the assassination attempt.
It was, a 20-year-old lone wolf, white, whack job with easy access to a gun. And we have to have a conversation about that. Because it wasn't a drag queen. It wasn't an immigrant. It wasn't a pissed off liberal woman.
I'm not saying that both sides don't draw on a certain level of propaganda if that's not their primary narrative. But right now, the pain and the distress, I think the side that was believing that they were on top are feeling now due to recent events and what seems to be a tectonic shift in how the forthcoming, up and coming months away elections are looking. It's a painful thing to swallow for the left, I do believe.
The shooter, yes, it was a 20-year-old kitchen worker from nearby Bethel Park in Pennsylvania. According to a CNN report, a senior law enforcement official said that he bought 50 rounds of ammunition from a local gun store hours before the rally. Shouldn't that have been reported? Somebody buys a 20-year-old white guy? I mean, we've seen that many times now, young white men with guns.
Is The View seriously trying to blame this all on white men?
I guess
of course they are. What else would we expect from those loons? Now here is a fascinating account of what happened in Pennsylvania. Take it away, Cenk Uygur.
Hey guys, Trump's been shot. When he got up, he was bleeding from the ear, but he seemed perfectly fine. He's not dead. He's fine. Like, my best guess, and this is just a guess because he was just shot, is that he was, it looked like a BB gun or something.
Yes, over to you, FBI. It was a BB gun. Now,
okay, I won't deny, I could have come to that conclusion, on the when the first report came through, that first video footage, the way it sounded and everything. But it wasn't long after the more accurate facts were being reported.
Has someone checked in on this next guy? Because he seems to have given attempted murders a heck of a lot of thought.
I'm not saying that I would ever try to assassinate a presidential candidate. All I'm saying is that if I went through all of that trouble, I wouldn't miss. I wouldn't graze that. He wouldn't be able to raise a fist. I would finish the
You don't want to put that on the internet.
What can we say? The left are truly unhinged lunatics.
There are a few people who think it was staged. And to be fair, I've seen employees at Claire's with better aim. I guess when you have bone spurs that bad, that's the closest you're actually going to get to any action. But as they say in any other pew-pew related incident, thoughts and prayers, I guess.
No thoughts and prayers for you, my dear. And check out Tenacious D at their concert right here in Australia.
Happy birthday.
Out there.
Oh my God. Don't miss Trump next time.
So brave in a very shaky way. Listen.
And that was Tenacious D taking D for deranged a little too seriously. Deport them. Get rid of them.
This spatula is making 600.
This really is food for thought. Someone who you're praising one day, they have a change of heart, and all of a sudden, they're like a fallen angel or something. You check this out.
Black, white, gay, or straight, it's all love.
Why am I crying over the Republican National Convention? Like, Amber Rose did a beautiful job. Oh, she did a beautiful job. I'm so proud of her.
Previously a Democrat. No longer. Officer Tatum again.
This video is brought to you by TatumStore.com. TatumStore.com. Get you one of these shirts. We got a brand new shirt that's coming out that says a problem. Some people have a problem with Amber Rose being at the Republican National Convention. Let me just put this in perspective. There is a difference between Republican, conservative, and Christian. And I think a lot of people conflate all three of those together as like the trinity of politics. That's not the way it goes. If you say you're a Christian, you need to be abiding by Christian values in Jesus Christ of Nazareth, and that is a closed unit. If you're a conservative, that means you espouse conservative values. If you're a Republican, that means you're voting for Republicans. That's what being a Republican.
Right, it's not exactly my point of view to the fullest extent, although I kind of get where he's coming from. He's a Christian, overtly, spiritual person. He puts his beliefs at the front of his thoughts and political views and balances them up in some way.
You can be a liberal and still vote Republican and associate yourself with the Republican Party. You can be gay, lesbian, trans, gender identifying queer, or whatever they call themselves today, and still vote for Republicans and be a Republican. You can't do all that and be a conservative, because those are not conservative values, and you cannot be those things and be Christian. People have a problem with what she said or how she represented at the National Committee. I think her speech was actually really good. I'm going to play a little bit of her speech so you can hear it. I don't want to play 7 minutes of it. And then I want to show how the media and everybody is losing their mind over this. When I think that Amber Rose is a net positive, even if she don't got it all figured out yet, even if she ain't a staunch Christian yet, I think that the value that she brings is that the everyday person, somebody that don't typically is a white male, somebody that's in the industry, somebody that got a lot to lose, come out and say, man, you know what? I'm voting for Trump. It's very inspiring to people that have a broad brain that wasn't a conservative their whole life. Let me play a little bit of her speech and then we'll go from there. Roll the clip.
My name is Amber Rose. I'm a model and entrepreneur. Thank you.
She do got a big old tattoo on her forehead. But hey, man, we all can change.
But most importantly, I'm a mother. My whole world revolves around providing for my children, keeping them safe, and giving them an opportunity for a better life. That's something that unites all American parents, whether we're Republicans, Democrats, conservatives, or liberals. We all want a better country for our children.
I agree.
Yeah,
Donald Trump agrees.
But I'm here tonight to tell you, no matter your political background, that the best chance we have to give our babies a better life is to elect Donald Trump President of the United States.
This is where it gets controversial for some.
Now, you may be wondering why I'm up here telling you this. I'm no politician, and I don't want to be. But I do care about the truth. And the truth is that the media has lied to us about Donald Trump.
I mean, she's no politician, but I've always thought of her, although she's a cultural entertainment business type of a fashion icon, model person, I think she's always been seen as seen as an activist of sorts. Proceed.
Where's the lie? Where's the lie?
I know this because for a long time I believed those lies. So I'm here to set the record straight. The first person I knew who supported Donald Trump was my father. I was shocked. My entire family is racially diverse.
Okay.
And I believe the left-wing propaganda that Donald Trump was a...
I'll tell you the strange thing. There's sides of the black community, particularly the ones that ply their trade in the media, and they embraced and welcomed Amber Rose with open arms when she was fighting for their cause and spreading the narrative they felt was the winning way to view things. Now they're calling her racially ambiguous lady. I thought she was the first black woman of this, that, or that. I don't know. It all gets very confusing for me.
Racist. My father said, "No, he's not, Amber. What are you talking about?" And when I insisted, he said, "Prove it." So to prove...
That's the term, racially ambiguous. No, who came up with that one?
My father wrong, I did my research and looked into all things Donald Trump. People have to do their research.
She didn't just take it from...
I watched all the rallies, and I started meeting so many of you, his red hat wearing supporters.
Made it up herself.
Where's the problem so far? I
haven't spotted one.
I realized Donald Trump and his supporters don't care if you're black, white, gay, or straight. It's all love.
Okay.
And that's when it hit me. These are my people. This is where I belong.
So different to the politics in the UK.
Now she go on and say a lot of stuff. I don't want to play the whole speech because this will be 7 minutes. That'd be a 45-minute video.
I mean, when you look at politics, the essence is the same wherever you are in the West. The way they play it out, though, my goodness me.
If I did that, I'll attach the speech below. You can go watch the rest of it. She goes on to espouse things that we all agree on about the economy, about Donald Trump changing America. She told the story of, her father, and she gave her father a shout out. And what's wrong with this?
Joy Reid.
And I think God doing certain things.
Well, that might be in another video.
I'd
really like you to see that.
Years. Why am I crying over the Republican National Convention? Like, Amber Rose did a beautiful job. She did a beautiful job. I'm so proud of her. And then all the diversity and just, I think I'm crying because it's cognitive dissonance. It's cognitive dissonance. Like, what is going on? I've been told my whole life Republicans are just all, white and racist men and all of this. I don't think I've probably ever watched a Republican National Convention. Let's start there.
Now, y'all seen this clip earlier, so I'm not going to go through the whole clip. But, listen, people, this is what I just wish that people like Matt Walsh, these out-of-touch people, would wake up and realize that there's a whole bunch of black people that are waking up, and they're not going to listen to you, especially when you talking about Amber Rose, Amber Rose.
I'm going to try and find this Joy Reid story because she said something, and I just found it very distasteful and confusing if she's trying to lead people.
It's the devil because she had a past. They ain't listening to you. They ain't listen to some stale, corny white dude that have these strong opinions about certain stuff. People ain't listening to you. But somebody like Amber Rose, they can identify with the story, and then they see people like that, and they're like, well, what? I thought Republicans was just racist white people. They got Amber Rose up there. They got people. It's changing. Things are happening. Different people are speaking. I see Latino people. I see people white. I see black people, white people. The Republican Party may not be what I thought it was. This is why people go and speak.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be about.
You can't find. I did a video the other day. Got 500,000.
Cause of an assassination attempt. This is where.
No, the failure that allowed to Daniel have a successful assassination attempt.
the Republican Party is. So it's ironic that they were able to recruit this young woman who, and she's a racially ambiguous. I don't want to say she's black because she has said she's not. So I don't want to say this black woman.
Racially ambiguous. A month ago, she was a member of the black community. Carrying a message to all.
If you're a Republican and you mixed, you ain't black. That's what she's saying.
Hey, it reminds me of what Biden bravely said before the last election. If you don't vote for me, you ain't black. There's something about the Dems when they want to welcome in a person from the ethnic minorities to their, club, and they feel you can bring in some supporters with you, and then, how that can switch overnight, or as they say, what a difference a day makes.
It's racially ambiguous. What?
Yeah.
Barack Obama is racially ambiguous.
Okay.
You want to go down the list, bruh? What are you talking about? Sonny Hostin is racially ambiguous.
That's messy.
Kamala Harris is racially ambiguous. Kamala Harris is an Indian. One year she's the first Indian senator. Next year she's the first black vice president. She's racially ambiguous. Now they say the girl ain't black.
Right, before we move on, there's something.
This woman who is of whatever race that she has claimed, she said she's not black. But they've brought somebody whose whole career is based in black culture. She used to be on a show on BET. That's the reason most people know who she is. She dated one of the most prominent African-American rappers in the business, in the history of hip-hop. So her whole culture came from black culture, even though she says she's not a black person herself. And the fact that she is now the person they're using.
Let's get this straight. Look, she's mixed race, so that means she has black culture in her heritage. She has European culture in her heritage. She didn't borrow anything. It's not, plagiarism. Don't get it.
Try to recruit young people of color and to say that this is the person who is the endorser of Donald Trump.
Actually,
who you should
I do
trust.
get it. It's the pain. It's the pain of things going a certain way or not going a certain way as certain parties would have hoped or intended. And as they say these days, it's cope.
She won't even claim the culture that brought her to the table.
No, you are saying you're not claiming her.
Claiming the culture.
She was messing with a black man. I'm sure she got kids are black.
Yeah.
She embraced the culture she came from. You're the one that's divorcing her from black culture. Only you.
It's funny.
I'm dubious that this will work. I don't know anyone who takes their political cues from Amber Rose, but just in case you do,
But they take political cues from what's her name? What's that woman's name? Cardi B? But y'all cool with Cardi B? Cardi B is racially ambiguous. But y'all cool with Cardi B?
So
it get worse, y'all. She finna finish. It's some more Democrats on here.
might want to duplicate doing your own research because she might not have done it.
How the commentary.
If you've ever tried to learn guitar.
First, we'll pick up on another one of these Amber
Rose.
Amber Rose
leaked earlier in the
criticisms
coming days leading up to the convention that she was going to be there. She would have a speaking role. She did speak. And then Joy Reid from MSNBC went in on Amber Rose over her RNC speech. First, let's show you what Amber said.
I'm here tonight to tell you, no matter your political background, that the best chance we have to give our babies a better life is to elect Donald Trump president of the United States. Now, you may be wondering why I'm up here telling you this. I'm no politician, Amber. What do you don't care?
All right, just get past.
So that threw me for a loop. I did watch it live. I quickly wanted to turn to reality television, 90 Day Fiancé.
That's the Republican convention. People are getting up, making speeches, expressing their point of view, showing how passionate they feel about their candidate, and that's their reality. What's not real about that?
The other way. Anything to escape this. And by the way, can someone check on Miss Rose's father? We need to check on him.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program.
This is how you change the composition of the electorate.
Yeah, that was probably the most dangerous speak for the Democratic coalition. That is a young woman of color. She's describing the experience a lot of people have, feeling that maybe if you're around too many liberals.
Listen, for the Dems at the moment, I can only describe this as shock and awe from Saturday to Sunday morning, and Trump's dramatic survival of the attempt to clearly remove him from the whole everything. This is for them shock and awe.
Might get criticized too much, or you might not be able to speak your mind. And she spoke to it really well. And she's way more famous than any of us up here. Yeah. I'm going to tell you that, way more famous. And so to the extent that these guys are trying to bust up our coalition, that was
I mean, that I take that as a positive, statement coming from, very positive so far.
A bunker buster right there.
By the way, and it's one of the things we've been talking about, but there are speakers who speak to the room, and there are speakers who speak through the television screen. She speaks through the camera to the audience at home, not, I mean, she's effective in the room, but when you're yelling into the room, that is not communicating directly through the lens.
This person is super talented. Yeah.
She's this person.
So the reaction to Miss Rose was even more jarring for me than her actual statements to the camera. Okay? I'll give her that. People accuse me of not having eye contact because I'm constantly thinking, my eyes are darting all over the place. So she had great eye contact. It's just what came out of her mouth. And then to hear Anderson Cooper and company,
the thing is, that's the
boy, what a star.
Politics.
She does have a lot of followers.
You speak your piece and you give the electorate something to weigh up. And if you do a good job of it, and they come to a different conclusion from where they started, you've done your job. That's how it's supposed to move.
Of course. Good grief. Joy Reid, though. Thank you, Joy. Joy Reid became the voice of reason. Listen.
The weekend, a member of Congress who was a Republican came out immediately and blamed the incident on DEI and said that the fact that there were...
I think it's strange how two people with the same type of ears and eyes can hear and see two completely different things when they're listening to and watching the same thing take place.
Women and Black people in the Secret Service is the reason this happened. That is a member of Congress who went out on the TV and said to the world that DEI was the cause of an assassination attempt. This is where the Republican Party...
I think what they was trying to say is when you're dealing with jobs that involve situations that are that serious and impactful, and it could be the difference between life and death, you want to make sure that you're selecting people purely on their skill set and their ability to not get it wrong. If you're dealing with what they call a zero-sum scenario, where there isn't no, oh, well, we'll learn from our mistakes without paying a heavy price. So I think that's what they was talking about in relation to DEI. Could be wrong, though.
Is. So it's ironic that they were able to recruit this young woman who, she's a racially ambiguous. I don't want to say she's Black because she has said she's not. So I don't want to say this Black woman, this woman who is of whatever race that
she was Black a year ago, a year before that, whenever it was she came on the scene, she was being championed from all corners of, I don't know.
He has claimed, she said she's not black, but they've brought somebody whose whole career is based in black culture. She used to be on a show on BET. That's the reason most people know who she is. She dated one of the most prominent African-American rappers in the business, in the history of hip-hop. So her whole culture came from black culture, even though she says she's not a black person herself. And the fact that she is now the person they're using to try to recruit young people of color and to say that this is the person who is the endorser of Donald Trump who you should trust, when she won't even claim the culture that brought her to the table, I'm dubious that this will work. I don't know anyone who takes their political cues from Amber Rose, but just in case you do, you might want to duplicate doing your own research because she might not have done it thoroughly.
You see what?
It's that last part. You know, I hate groupthink. I like independent, even provocative thinkers.
Just give me a moment.
That's not what we heard last night. And Joy Reid was spot on in sensing and knowing and articulating.
All right, let's check this out. See what the UK networks are reporting.
Trump in his element. 2 days in a row, he's made a surprise appearance at the convention. He just can't stay away. The primal scream of prime-time adulation.
Win an election.
God bless Donald J. Trump.
And the joy of watching his former opponents kiss the ring and nod to God.
And for turning his head on Saturday as the shot was fired.
Donald Trump has my strong endorsement, period.
And she's a funny lady. Obviously, when she's running against him, he was like everything that's not good she can think up and that could come out of her mouth. No.
She had called him unhinged.
He's the good guy.
Let's make the 45th president of the United States the 47th president of the United States.
He had called them both too juvenile and too old.
The funniest thing I find in terms of what I've seen the last few days, even on the Republican side, this is a classic example. It literally reminds me of Game of Thrones or something along those lines, like where they have to reluctantly kiss the ring. That's what's going on here.
Together, we will make Donald Trump our president again.
And he had described him as a con artist. A roll call of sycophancy that was only summoned after the assassination attempt to project party unity. What Trump cherishes most
even
is
if it's
loyalty.
superficially, it seems to have pulled their party together.
His reliance on family in business and in politics. In the absence of Ivanka, there is Donald Jr., who lobbied hard for his friend J.D. Vance to become vice president. And daughter-in-law Lara, promoted from political novice to all-powerful party grandee. Her role here to talk about Trump, the family man.
I have seen this man dragged through hell and back, in and out of courtrooms, indictments, impeachments, mugshots, and even an assassination attempt.
She would know.
And yet, he has never backed.
I wonder how they feel, though. I mean, in the beginning, it seemed like, okay, we're not sure what took place, but when the true facts came in, it must be, even Trump, it must be dawning on him, like day after day, that, look, this is day 2, day 3, that if he didn't have luck on his side, he might not have. And family, well, they must be blessed in some kind of way.
Down.
Should Trump win, this small group of family and friends will run the most powerful nation on earth. America first, America alone, one nation under Trump, one family under God.
This used to be quite a broad church, this party. It now seems to be just the Church of Trump, doesn't it?
Well, the Church of Trump is quite broad. The Church of Trump includes working class voters of every race and background. You know, I think we're building the most multiracial, multicultural, multi-generational movement the Republican Party has seen, and it's why we're doing quite well in all the swing states.
They're here because they're united behind the policies of Republicans, and they know what has happened to America under President Biden.
So much for the protestations of unity. Minutes later, these two old foes were at it again.
Hey, you're not. If you took that stage, you would get booed off. You would get booed off the stage.
There are splits here between nativists and globalists, between Wall Street and Main Street. But one thing they can all agree on: guns, even after their leader almost lost his life to one. Joe Biden, the president, said today he wants to ban AR-15, semi-automatic rifles, after the shooting at the weekend. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely not. Why not? I own AR-15.
You do?
I have a pink one. It's really scary.
How many guns do you have?
More than 20.
This idea.
Yes, see how we view it from our side of the pond.
America, because that's where Kinsey is, of course, on the West Coast there in Los Angeles. We're going to go over to America now to discuss a woman who I think should quit immediately, but won't. She is called Kimberly Cheatle. She's the head of America's Secret Service. She was in charge of that operation.
Yes, she was.
That failed to protect Donald Trump. She was the person at the helm as Donald Trump was shot. And the lapses in security are breathtaking. But yet she's...
I mean, there's been a lot of conspiracy theories swirling around. Although at the same time, some of the facts that have come to the surface about what happened on the day. I saw an interview with the same woman they're talking about here, and they asked her, the interviewee asked her, why didn't you have snipers or secret service personnel on the roof? And she said, we looked into that, made an assessment. It was a sloped roof. So I guess they looking at health and safety reasons and, you know, with their risk assessments. The funny thing is, though, where the snipers were that took the guy out was also a sloped roof, and it was even more sloped. So does that argument really wash?
The former head of security at Pepsi Cola, and she still thinks she's the one to run the Secret Service in America. She's obsessed with, you won't be surprised to hear, diversity, equality and inclusivity. That, of course, is what Donald Trump was saying as he was so nearly killed. Well, you didn't do a very good job, but at least you're really good on diversity.
Good
Unbelievable.
intention.
Now, I'm really pleased to say that to discuss what I think is a real scandal, we're going to go across to America and talk to the fabulous Fox News commentator, Tomi Lahren. Hello, Tommy.
Oh, it's good to be with you, and I'm so happy that you're talking about the gross negligence from our Secret Service director. If she had any integrity whatsoever, she would have resigned on Saturday evening. But of course, we know that because in America, and unfortunately in much of the world, DEI reigns supreme. So I don't
There's this term I've been hearing for about a while now, and they call it failing upwards. It seems in today's modern day politics, that is a standard way to move. Forget about sideways navigating. It's just seems to be the modus operandi.
Expect her to be forced to step down. I'd be shocked if she did it on her own. But again, a dereliction of duty doesn't even begin to describe what happened. It's an international embarrassment for the USA. And I got to tell you, I don't expect much more from the current administration, but this is even worse than we could have ever anticipated.
Well, check this out, Tommy. I'm sure you have checked this out, but it's quite breathtaking what she said. Why those that roof from which Donald Trump was shot, where that guy incredibly managed to get up there in full view of too many people, but he got up there. Why were there no Secret Service agents on that roof? Kimberly Cheatle went on to American television and explained. She said, well, it's very slopey. It was a health and safety issue. What about the health and safety of Donald Trump? How can she say that and think that that is a viable excuse? And what is she still doing in that job?
Well, the fact that she is insulting our intelligence as viewers, as Americans, as human beings, by telling us that the problem was the roof was too slopey and she didn't want to endanger her Secret Service agents. The job of a Secret Service agent is to literally put their life on the line to protect current and former presidents. And I have a feeling that if any qualified Secret Service agents had been on the job and we didn't have whatever we had that day, that they would have had no problem climbing on that roof, because a 20-year-old was able to climb on that roof and take what looked like it could have been a direct shot at our president's head. So I've seen people climb more slanted roofs to hang Christmas lights, for goodness sakes. It's an insult to our intelligence that she thinks that any American, whether they're on the left or the right, is going to buy that load of crap.
Yeah, absolutely. Load of crap is exactly what it is, because apart from the fact that it's an appalling excuse to give for people who are supposed to be protecting others, that roof isn't very slopey. It's pretty much flat, so it doesn't stack up. Now, here's the thing, and I know you've already looked into this, Tommy, but you won't be surprised to hear that Ms. Cheetle is the recommendation of Dr. Jill Biden. Dr. Jill Biden's presiding obsession is diversity, equality and inclusivity, and she was very impressed by Kimberly Cheetle's record on DEI, and while she's not protecting people like Donald Trump, in other words, while she's not doing her job properly, she's very proud of her ambitions to fill the Secret Service with 30% of women agents. OK, fine. But are you telling me that getting 30% of women into the Secret Service is more important than protecting people like Donald Trump properly? Because I don't think it is.
I mean, targets are all good when they're well thought out. And if you can carry off and, you know, populate the space with qualified, skilled, suitable people who are the best picks for the job, if you're just putting people in place to tick off boxes because you want a particular visual balance, that ain't going to work in certain professions and jobs. Just won't work that way. But it's modern era, this is America, and things are as they are for the moment.
Here's the thing about the American left that I just can't quite seem to understand. They're all about women and women empowerment, yet that doesn't extend to men and women's sports. So apparently you want 30% of your Secret Service to be females because it makes women feel better about themselves, but you don't want women's sports to be reserved exclusively for women. So the math is not mathing here. It is not adding up. DEI is a joke. DEI is going to be the death of America. It's going to be the death of the world. It is the dumbest social experiment we have ever experienced. And the fact of the matter is this. If you have a woman who is 5'3" and she is guarding a president who is over 6 foot tall, obviously there are going to be limitations there. So the fact that he had that many women surrounding him that weren't even as tall as he is obviously...
I think Gaddafi had personal guard that was primarily made up of females, although I'm sure he made sure they were qualified for the job.
Excuse me, is obviously a huge problem and a colossal failure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was exactly going to be my next question. That frankly, these agents, you know, it's got nothing against them being women, but because they're women, they weren't tall enough. And by the way, you're probably not allowed to say this in our brave new woke world, but a couple of them looked rather overweight. They didn't look to be in very good shape. So basically, you had a bunch of fat, short women protecting a guy who's 6'2".
Some of his
and the
shows, because he has a reasonable point of view. The originator of the long form podcast, Mr. Joe Rogan.
Speaking of which, how about that president? How about that Trump fella? How crazy is this? If there's ever been a real indication that we're in a simulation, it's like this season of USA is the craziest season that's ever existed. There's so many twists and turns, so many plots, so many villains, so many incompetent, bumbling fools that you're like, there's no way that lady's a heartbeat away from the president. There's no way. There's no way someone is not telling her to stop saying that same thing over and over again. What can be unburdened by what has been? Like, she just says it over and over and over again. This isn't real. This is writing. Someone wrote this. It seems like a script.
When a president that is giving a speech gets shot in the ear and then stands up and goes full John Bender at the end of Breakfast Club.
Bro, he pumps his fist in the air.
That was a crazy
and
shit.
says, fight, fight, fight. And when the fucking guy who's the photographer is a wizard, that guy who got that photograph, find out his name, because this guy's award-winning
with
photographer.
the flag above it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the angle that he got it, like where he was standing when he took the photo. It's one of the most iconic photos of all time.
It's gonna go down in history.
GoPro on it while he was doing it. So you
Wow.
can watch him move in position of
Most definitely.
take it.
Wow, that's nuts, man. That's nuts. So you could see as the bullets start flying, this fucking dude doesn't even duck. He's still got his camera out. He's right behind Trump, and he's just got his camera out. That is so gangster. I mean, you want to talk about getting a shot no matter what? He's running around. There could be bullets flying his way.
I would think you're holding up something black in your hand that's pointed at the president. You fucking should get shot.
One or the other.
I mean, the Trump story is right out of a movie. And I'm hoping it's not a Stephen King movie.
This came out while we've been recording.
Secret Service ramped up security after receiving intel of Iranian plot to assassinate Trump. No known connection to shooting.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Oh, they ramped that up, and so they ignored the roof 150 yards away?
Yeah,
which is a
there's so
chip
many.
shot.
There's so many things where you just go, "What the fuck?
What the fuck, dude? All of it, all of it, and there's so much of it that seems fake. Like the female Secret Service agent that can't holster her weapon. Have you seen this? She's like moving around all erratic.
See, I'm with him 100% on that. Some of the when you look back at some of the edits and the video that they've highlighted now and the detail they've pulled up on the different things they're calling major errors and mistakes now, as far as the Secret Service's high standards of operating. Some of them, they look very peculiar, baffling, and even I get how some people would go down the conspiracy theory route. It's just like Hollywood has entered the frame. What can you say?
And she tries to holster her weapon. She can't get it in there, and she can't figure out how to put it in there. And she stops for a minute, and she just tries back to do it again. And it looks so fake.
Is she an actress?
No, it looks like an actress, though.
Okay.
It looks like if you were going to have a bumbling person in a movie, like almost like a comedy of errors or a Coen Brothers movie about an assassination attempt on a president. You have this lady. Look here. Watch what her gun. Look. She gets her gun out. She tried to put it in there. She couldn't do it, and she's thinking about putting it back in there. She finally gets it in there. Like the whole thing, it's like, look at her fumbling around. The whole thing is crazy. The erratic movements, no one knows exactly what to do. It seems fake.
Yeah, that's an audition I could nail.
Yeah, it seems like, okay, now you're panicking. You don't know what the fuck is going on. You really should.
I mean, these people, I assume, are the best of the best. They are the pros. How could you not know how to holster your weapon?
Shouldn't be here. Go. You're like, where do I put my gun? Like it does. You want Secret Service cool, calm, collected, high ready with the gun, scanning the area, looking left and right.
Yep.
You want them like swift, decisive movements. You don't want to see any of this fucking squirrely trying to put the gun back in. It seems fake.
When you see the Reagan shot, it is just a bunch of people moving as one.
They dive on him. Yeah. Bang, dive on him.
I reckon there's going to be a lot more that's going to be coming out in the coming weeks, coming months, and this picture's changing so rapidly. I'm going to be leaving the floor open for anything information-wise, anything.
It almost seems like as this simulation gets further and further along, it gets more and more insane.
Funny. Yeah, look at this.
Yeah, they dive.
Immediately,
they dive on the guy.
they got him.
Immediately. They get his gun immediately.
That's rapid.
And Reagan survives.
And that's back in the day, so they would have learned from these.
The Trump one is just so nuts, too. Like, if he turns his head at the last second and the bullet grazes his ears, if he didn't, it hits the back of his head.
You know, one thing I couldn't quite get, where were the drones? Don't they have helicopters in the air at big open events like this. They do that on protests and marches. So with lesser high profile personalities, this is a former president who's the leading candidate for the coming election, and you've got no simple drones in the air. Not sure about this. Well,
and he's dead, and then we
keep an open mind.
Fall into chaos, and who knows what the fuck happens.
Big chaos.
And then people think that the Biden administration had Trump killed, and and then there's these questions like, how the fuck does this 20-year-old kid climb on that roof 150 yards away and no one sees him?
Well, that one guy was pointing at him the whole time.
Yes.
He's like pointing to he's like, he's right there.
And they're yelling, he's got a gun. There's a guy in the prone position on a roof 150 yards away from the former president. The whole thing's nuts. The whole thing stinks of either incompetence or a design or we're in the Matrix. This is a fucking fake movie. It seems like almost to watch this, the most bombastic and manly of presidents, you know, for a lack of a better term, to see him with these two female bumbling Secret Service agents, especially the one, to see to see everything happen the way.
This might sound a bit strange, but I kind of feel sorry for those two female agents because they're going to be taking a whole heap of flack. And yes, you know, it's a very serious thing that's taken place. Donald Trump fortunately survived for him and all, you know, anyone else who's involved, because I dread to think what would have happened. There might be some people, as we know, this is... you know, take no prisoners point in time for some of the participants. So there might be or will be those who would have liked to see things go a different way. Although I kind of think the way things have been boiling up in American politics, it wouldn't have been good. The outcome, what might have took place if things went differently in terms of both sides of the different tribes reacting. No, this is could be worse.
To see that they knew this guy was on the roof, to hear that guy had pointed his rifle before that at a cop, so the cop engaged.
Even though those are the jobs they chose to do, and supposedly they're trained to a certain level to do those jobs efficiently, it can't be going through a good time right now. The way people are talking about them in the media and partitioning blame on their laps can't be good.
Him, he pointed the rifle and the cop ran away. The guy climbed the roof with a ladder. You can see the ladder. The whole thing is bananas.
Yeah,
he's 20 years old, and then you find out he was in a BlackRock commercial. You're like, is this the Black Mirror? Like, tell me what's going on. Is this real? Is this real? And then Trump goes golfing with a bandage on his ear the next day.
Yeah, and then the putt, when he made the putt.
Jesus
Did you hear his quote?
No.
He said, "That's the difference between me and the shooter. I don't miss."
This isn't a real person.
And then now you have people flooding from the left being like, "That's real. All right.
Yeah.
That's a good quote. I'll do this."
There's people that are like, okay, he won. Like, they've just given in. They're not even going to try to run anybody other than Biden now.
What
they were trying to get Biden out, and now I think they've abandoned that.
I wonder if they're doing the old, like, train the boxer as a southpaw.
Yeah, I read that golf story too.
Oh,
this
is
not the first time. There's a lot of golf accounts that put out fake shit.
Oh.
And
I just want to say thanks to everybody, thanks to all for spending some time and looking through these matters and new details. With me here at Corner Speak Podcast. I'll be back with other stories in the coming hours, days, weeks and months. So as per usual, be good, be safe, be creative. We kind of out.